This is Edward Softwater, July 16th, 1787. We're here at Mrs. House's boarding house at 5th and Market in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We're going to have the pleasure of interviewing a man who claims to have a breakthrough in the stalemate over the representatives in Congress and voting by state. Mrs. Throbbins, would you get Mr. James Wilson for me, please?
Sounds like I smell rat already. He was up all night.
Mrs. Throbbins, please, save it for later.
Mr. Softwater, you could interview me with all the things going on that night. I could tell you, I happened to listen at Mr. Wilson's keyhole last night, and these men were up late smoking and drinking, and I could tell they were going to put something over on somebody.
Sounds like you were looking in the keyhole, not listening through it. Mrs. Throbbins, I don't need a spy.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Softwater.
Pleasure. Please have a seat. Could you tell us about this breakthrough you have for us?
Sure. Since June, the last 6 weeks, we've been trying to determine how to allocate the seats in the House of Representatives by state. And we've gotten nowhere. The large states, like Virginia and Massachusetts, they want representation by population. And the small states, North and South Carolina, Georgia, Maryland, and Rhode Island, they want each state to have one equal vote. Now, I devised a way to get the southern states to cooperate with the northern states while allowing them to have a portion of their slaves represented in their numbers that would make them more equal.
I see. Well, Mr. Wilson, could you explain this for us?
Sure. Mrs. Throbbins, may I borrow those cookies for a moment to show something?
No, I baked these today for the poor hungry orphans.
Wait. I'll give you $5 in gold for those cookies.
Well, I guess the orphans can wait. Maybe they're not really hungry.
Let's say that we want the slaves in the population to be worth some number. And let's say that a slave will be equal to 3/5 of one white person. All right?
Okay.
And this will be for the purposes of representation and voting only. And this will give them more congressmen. So if we have 5 slaves, that'll equal 3 white men. If we have 500 slaves, that'll equal 300 white men. If we have 50,000 slaves, that will be equal to 30,000 free people, which will give 1 congressman for the House of Representatives. Now, the results of this is that the slave owner states will be very happy, and it will make them more equal than some of the non-slave states in the new government.
I see. That's great, Mr. Wilson. Did they buy it?
Mr. Wilson, I would give those Virginians and North and South Carolinians 1/5 and tell them to take it or leave it. Make them beg for more. You're pacifying them.
We're trying to get them to sign the Constitution, not break it before we start. And we also need 13, out of the 13 states, we need 9 of them to sign the Constitution.
If I was a northern delegate, I'd counter-demand that property, and horses and cows would be counted as part of the population.
Well, the delegates already thought of that. And the delegate from Massachusetts, Mr. Albridge Gary, he said that he's not going to sign the Constitution.
Hooray for Mr. Gary. That's a deal with the devil, giving slaveholders more voting rights. You're going to regret that.
Mrs. Throbbins, please, can you just go make sweet pickles or something? Sorry about that, Mr. Wilson. Can you show or tell us how it would sound in writing?
Sure. Let me read it as it'll sound in the Constitution.
That would be great.
This will be Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, Paragraph 1. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons.
I see. Well, there it is, folks. 3/5 of the slaves will count in the representative population. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. This is Edward Softwater for A&N News saying we'll be back right after this message from our sponsors.